Hall of Fame finalist Carmelo Anthony gives the nod to Matas Buzelis. We'll be talking about what he had to say. And also we'll be looking at some players that may not necessarily be with the Chicago Bulls after this season. And so this is your host, Rico Greenhowe, and you have found yourself on another episode of Bulls Digest. And so today we are talking about what Carmelo Anthony had to say about Matas Buzelis. And I must say that I think as a Chicago Bulls fan, I think it definitely gives us some more hope about Matas Buzelis. We're also going to be looking at some players that may not be with this club after this season. So before we go ahead and jump into it, wanted to first let you know that about 64.6% of you that watch are not subscribed to the channel. So make sure that you go ahead and you slam dunk on that subscribe button for us, as it means a lot to us as we try to reach our end of the season subscriber goal. And so with that being said, let's go ahead and jump into the content for today. And so you can find this on sportsillustrated.com talking about Carmelo surprising statement on Chicago Bulls rookie here. And so what exactly did Carmelo Anthony say? And so this is what he said. And so I'm just going to keep it pretty PG with what he had to say. But he is saying that, look, man, he is obviously for Matas Buzelis here. And he said this on his podcast here, the 7 p.m. in Brooklyn. Very good show if you've ever got a chance to check it out. But he's talking about just how he could have went to any school. And, I think one of his co-hosts chimed in and said that, hey, he could be a top pick. And what Carmelo Anthony was really talking about was just watching Matas Buzelis, his growth through high school, talking about how he did, on the AAU circuit, and really just talking about how he just took a different path to the NBA, and just saying that, yes, the Chicago Bulls have something with Matas. And that is when, hilariously, that is when his co-host chimes in and he goes, yeah, the Chicago Bulls have something if Billy Donovan plays him. And so that leads us to the point that I think we have been just really hammering, I think, throughout this season, is that, look, Matas Buzelis has got to play. I mean, I think that is the bottom line. And I think that when you hear statements like this from, possibly a future Hall of Famer in Carmelo Anthony, and you know how well that he was as a scorer, as a competitor, right? And you see that he's giving the vote of just really confidence with Matas Buzelis and saying that the Chicago Bulls have something here. You must play this young man. You must go out and you must find what he has, because I think that as you do that, that is certainly going to help this team really get to the right direction. And I'm not saying that he's necessarily the franchise player, and I'm not saying that you necessarily are just, saying, hey, he is the building piece. But like I said before on a couple shows back, I think that whatever happens with this team, Matas Buzelis is going to be a big part in the turnaround of this team. I'm not sure what that role is going to be, but just the way that he goes out, he competes, he handles his business, and the way that he wants to be better, and just the growth that we have seen, talking about Carmelo Anthony and what he said with growth, we've seen that he's definitely worked on his three-point shot. I can certainly see that he is going to be a very good three-point shooter, I think, down the line in his career. And I love the fact that a lot of the things that we saw really in the G League, and then also too in the Summer League, it's starting to translate. His ability to get to the basket, his ability to handle the basketball, his ability to find other teammates, and then we're seeing the ability to block shots. And so I think that maybe that's a bit of a surprise, which really leads me to believe that defensively, I think that we may have found like a real gem with him. I think that he's going to be a very good defensive player, especially once he continues to get stronger. Who knows, maybe he has another growth spurt left. I don't know. But right now, yes, Matas Buzelis is a bright spot for the Chicago Bulls. And I'm glad to see that he is really getting, credit from, just players, either, Paul George or players that have played in this league that are giving Matas Buzelis, I think, the nod here. And so next up, I want to talk about some players that I think, more than likely we may not necessarily see them on the team after this season is up. I know we've been talking about what we want to see from certain players down the stretch, how we want to see maybe minutes, kind of handed out as this team really goes to evaluate players. But these are some players that I think that I'm not sure if they're going to necessarily be back this upcoming season, and I want to start with THT. And so, I'm not sure that THT is going to be back. Look, I think that there's nothing that THT has necessarily done wrong. I think he's gone out, he's played hard, did run into a little bit of injuries and things like that. He's shown that he could definitely be certainly a bucket getter. But, on an expiring deal, I would say that if this team was maybe more into a contention and really, maybe fighting for a deep playoff run, I'd say maybe THT is back with us, but I'm not sure that he is coming back, just my personal thoughts. And I wonder if he's even going to get some minutes down the stretch. I think that could be a telltale sign, in the direction that the Bulls might be headed here. And so hopefully THT is around somewhere, because I definitely think he can still impact the team. And so next up, another player that, I'm not sure if he is certainly going to be around, and that is Vooch. And I think that the writing has been on the wall. I've said this before with him. I do think that Vooch is probably a bit checked out at this point. And yes, I think that we're probably more than likely not going to see him back this season. Or after this season, I think that there probably is going to be a trade. And I just wonder what it's going to be. I did see something here where he's still linked to possibly the Golden State Warriors. I do think that is still a possibility. Maybe the Warriors do make a play. They do have some draft picks. And, another thing that we're probably not even thinking about is maybe what a team could do on draft night, right? So I think that there is still a possibility here. But I think that Vooch is definitely a player that more than likely is probably not going to be back with the team this year. And so, next up, another player that I wonder if he's going to be back here, and that's going to be Tre Jones. I think that Tre Jones is another player that it's not that he's not a solid player. I love, in fact, the way that he came back and competed after having a tough initial outing with the Chicago Bulls. And I think he really shows that he is definitely a natural point guard, certainly a serviceable backup. Maybe you can throw him in there as a starter if there are injuries and things like that. But just with the logjam of guards here, I wonder where he exactly is going to fit with this team. They did go out and extend Lonzo Ball, and you have to wonder, is Lonzo Ball maybe really more of the insurance plan here, just depending on what they're going to do with, Kobe White, Josh Giddey, and how that situation works out. Obviously, too, they've got to figure out what you want to do with Ayo, because we know Kobe, Ayo, they have that extension coming up. You have Josh Giddey that he is maybe going to want some serious money here. Who knows what's going to happen there? And so the Bulls are going to have to make a decision. Either way, I think that the guard position is something the Bulls just really, I don't think that that's necessarily going to be something they have to worry about. I think at this point, this team really seriously needs to figure out how they can fill out the wing. They need to get some forward and center help there. They need to get some size. They need to get some length and be able to really start to, I think, turn the corner as a team so they can be a serious contender again. And so anyway, let me know in the comments what you're thinking here about these players that may or may not possibly be here. Some notables out there too is Adama Sanogo, who's been injured. I believe he's going into restricted free agency along with, I believe, EJ Liddell. At least that's what it says there on their little contract profile, that it says the RFA for restricted free agents. So not sure how that's going to work out. Tre Jones, he's on an expiring contract. Then you have THT, he's on an expiring deal. By the way, Javon Carter, that's going to be interesting too. He does have a player option at $6 million, and so maybe the Bulls, maybe they end up doing something with him. I'm not sure if he necessarily has some value as far as a trade. And then with Dalen Terry, there's a club option on him, and it's $3.5 million, and then 5.3 after that, or 5 and some change. After that first 3 and some change. And so we'll see what happens with what the Bulls want to do as far as decisions that will be made and who comes back. And so I'd love to know what your thoughts are. And so I just want to thank everybody out there for liking, sharing, and subscribing to the content. Let me know in the comments what you think here about the most recent statement around Matas Buzelis and the players that might not make it back to us after this season. And so with that being said, look, I always say that the Bulls have to come up with a plan. Look, when you hear stuff like this with Matas Buzelis, you hear just the bright spot that he is. You really do need to see what you have with him in order to continue to build this team out correctly. And And also, too, with these players that I have mentioned, I think it is very important down the stretch that you go out, you play these players as much as possible, put them into different situations so you can be very sure if you want to move on with them or just kind of move away from them. Either way, the Bulls need to go out there and evaluate very heavily over the last 20 games. And so anyway, let me know what you're thinking in the comments. And as I always say, go Bulls, and I will see you in the next one. All right, peace.